7:05 and I call this meeting to order. So welcome everybody. I know it's a very chaotic season and very busy season, especially considering our last holiday, Thanksgiving, was so late this year, so everything's compressed. But hoping everybody is enjoying the holiday season, whatever holiday you guys celebrate. I just wanted to quickly just comment. It's our last meeting of the year. Just quickly comment on the year and what a year we've had this year.
Yeah.
And certainly if you guys, it's a fairly short list, but if you guys have any other comments to add, please do. We started off the year with the remnants of the flood from last fall. Most of that was the children's room, but also the community room. So, didn't start off too great. We did not have a director. So we were without a library director. We were getting lots of support, and thanks to the town administrator's office, they were supporting a lot of those director activities for probably at least half the year. So thank you to them. We had various building issues. We had the HVAC. This was even before Tom started. We had HVAC issues, elevator issues. But then I guess it would have been in the spring that we started the effort to actually interview candidates, and obviously very excited to bring Tom on board June 5th, June 6th. Is that your first day? June 3rd, his first day. So I feel like this was kind of like the top of the mountain or whatever, I guess it would be the end of the downhill, right? Because this was all kind of the challenges we had the first half of the year. So once we've hired Tom, got things rolling, a lot of the construction stuff and the renovation stuff remediation stuff got resolved. We finally opened the community room first, opened the children's room, to much fanfare, and I've been in the library a couple times, and it's just incredible to see the children's room these days. We took a little bit of a step back down because we continue to have some elevator issues. I know Tom continues to, I think at least 2 or 3 times I've had to call to get that repaired. A little bit of HVAC issues that are still going on. But I think the culmination, or at least the beginning or whatever, the really exciting piece happened at the beginning of this year with Grafton Celebrates the Holidays. The staff did just an excellent job getting the library ready for that event on Sunday. Thanks to the staff for that, and thanks for the trustees that were able to make it to that event. I was there for a short period of time, I think right at the time where people really started flooding in there, before, I guess it was like 3 or 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
2:30.
It was actually quite exciting just to see all the buzz, and obviously it's not just the children's room. There were a lot of different activities go on. So again, that was a big success, and thanks to the staff for that. So that was my year in review. Pretty quick synopsis. I don't know if anyone has any other commentary before we get started.
I guess, it's been a wild year, and it's ending on a much higher note than certain parts of the year. I just want to mention that along the lines of, I guess it could be considered new business, but it tails nicely with your comments, is that we will be at the end of January needing to put together our trustees report for the annual town report. And so one of us, maybe you, will be receiving the sort of informational email and deadline.
Yeah, I know you guys have done that before. We've done that, Aaron and Roger. Can you remember what time? So it's like it was done at the end of the year, and it's due probably January or February?
At the end of January, give an inch, she'll take a mile. It's so lengthy now that in years past there's a little bit of leeway regarding how late.
Yep.
But
okay.
Really, I think our goal should be to look at that draft and vote on it at our January meeting.
Yep. Okay.
So
great.
And so I don't know whether that's something Kim would do or one of the trustees. In other words, is that one of the exceptions to scribe duties or not?
That's a good question. I think it's probably the chairperson's initial responsibilities, but obviously getting help from others.
Because I think I had drafted it last year.
I think you did,
but
yeah.
in the absence of a director.
Yeah.
But so I don't know whether,
No, it was always in the purview of
the
the chair.
chair, it was
Yeah,
the
it
chair?
is. It's like the
Yeah,
trustee
yeah,
annual
it's the
report.
trustees, yeah.
The director will be responsible for the
For the-
library
Yeah,
annual
I
report.
misspoke, I misspoke.
I can, I'll take the lead on that, and I'll bring anybody else in that I can, if I need help.
Yep. And on that note, I just want to thank Roger for his service as the chair and John as the vice chair for
good
as long
point.
as he's been doing it, and certainly the new leadership that Doug has taken over. I think we've the transition of power went very well, and you know, I think we've been operating pretty well, and certainly having. If you mentioned it, having Kim and have somebody to keep us organized as well, especially with the policy subcommittee. Having Kim has just been such a boon to our operations. I mean, it's hard enough trying to have the meetings and stay on top of the agenda and get the policies going, but having somebody to help keep us organized has been really great. So
Great. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, thanks. And yeah, Roger had the privilege of dealing with that first half of the
Yeah.
year. I've been kind of
Serves
lucky.
me right for jumping in out of the gate, you know, but it was a good year though.
Great.
We got a lot done under some trying circumstances.
Yep. And hopefully the work we have ahead of us for next year, Roger's going to talk about the planning, the long-term plan and stuff. Hopefully that's going to be all the fun stuff. So it's good.
yep.
Okay. If there are no other comments, I'll just start the meeting or move on to the first agenda item, which is approving minutes. So I'll accept a motion to accept the meetings for November 20th.
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for November 20th, 2024.
Approved. Seconded. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Aaron. Any discussion?
Yes, just
Roger?
a couple of typographical changes. By the way, unbelievable minutes, Kim. So yeah, you captured things so nicely. Under on the first line of the second page of the minutes, under that little small I, Aaron made a motion. It lists Aaron declared a motion to approve, but Aaron made a motion. So if you could just swap out declared with made on the top of the second page. On the third page, number 5, the walkabout, Roman numeral 3, last line. There's a couple of all right. The line says those charges, as there is no access aisle at this time. So the word charges should be chargers, as in electrical chargers. And then there's no access aisle. It's AISLE. So it's just, I think Word can try to fill things in for you. And so those are a couple in that line. And then the bottom of page 4, policy update number 8. Third line down, and focus of the meeting was to pare it down. P-A-R-E, not P-A-R.
You're better than like the spell check.
I'm a word nerd. I'll challenge you to Scrabble. So, and then lastly, adjournment. It doesn't matter whether it's 9:05. I had 9:09. It lists 9:05, but I think, I don't know if that was based on the length of the meeting on the video, whether you look back at the video and then backed into when the end time was. We can leave it at 9:05, but I had 9:09, so it really doesn't matter. I'll just make that comment, so.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody else? I don't have any edits, but I do have a couple comments since I was not here last month. Under the cupola update, I just want to give an extra thanks to Tom because when we were discussing repairing the inside of the historic reading room, we were really pressed with time between, like, you know, with the holidays and Christmas, and Grafton celebrates the holidays, like, are they really going to get it done in time? But he really pushed them and planned ahead, and they were able to get that done in advance. So thank you, Tom, for that. In the section 3 of ongoing business, there was discussion about the director's assessment update. I just want to clarify that the contract does not mention a probational period. There is no probational period in his contract. I'm not sure if that's true for other positions.
So there used to be, but it was stripped out when we were editing the contract.
Correct,
That's
correct.
what
Okay.
was brought up. Yeah.
Okay.
Does
So I'll just clarify. So yeah, that was something that we originally had in. It was taken out. And what is in the wording is that there is a 1-year annual review. That's what we've done, usual, right? Every year we give him a yearly review, but there's an added 6-month. I honestly can't remember how it was worded, but it's like a 6-month review. So it's like a check-in, which we would be doing anyways, but it's actually in his contract that we do a 6-month check-in, typically after the annual review, just to check in on the goals and whatever was discussed at that annual review.
so I guess I had a question. Did we take it out because we felt that it didn't need to be duplicative to the HR policies that already exist in town? In other words, that probationary period, that we didn't, I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember, at least in my experience, any employee can be reviewed and get feedback and potentially go under some kind of performance review or performance plan if they're not performing well. So, I don't know if that's why we took it out or if the lawyer decided
And
to
I guess
take it
it's a moot point at this time because now that we're beyond 6 months anyway, you're home free, Tom.
I think the other real challenge is, in order to, in any position, you need to have clear goals and checkpoints, and we didn't have that coming in except
Right.
to kind of learn the position. When we do this next annual review, which we're coming up, then, we'll be putting all those goals in
Right,
place,
right.
which will be appropriate for that 6-month review. So just a small clarification. And that's all I had about the meeting minutes. Any other comments on the meeting minutes?
No, fantastic job, Kim. Thank you.
Yes, great job. So, given the minor edits that we spoke about, all in favor of accepting the meeting minutes of November 20th?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. Bills, I think if we can, I'm always blanking on the name, we can approve them in bulk
All right,
if we're interested, or we can do them one at a time.
Yeah,
So I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve warrants number 22 in the amount of $4,314.58, number 23 for $2,598.66, number 24 for $3,317.10, and 25 for $41,795.26, with the sources of funds contained in the schedule handout in the meeting packet.
Second?
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the warrants?
Just a question. So on the largest one, there was 30 on warrant 25. There's 39,294 for Olson. So was that related to the cupola?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that's I believe the last payment
Okay.
for the cupola project.
Okay.
Yeah, the Alston company is that company, the
Yeah.
construction company.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Great. All right, no other discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I declare the motion carried and the 4 warrants approved. Ongoing business, speaking of cupola, that's the first update, Tom.
Okay. Cupola project is officially done. So there's the
Yay.
update.
And it looked
There you go.
great.
Yep.
Yeah,
It does look
yeah.
great. So outside it looks wonderful, and there's nothing like standing on the common and looking up at the library and seeing that scaffolding free. So I'm pleased with that. The inside is just as nice. So it was as Doug mentioned earlier, it's a race to the finish. Try to get it done in time for Grafton celebrates the holidays, but they assured me they can get it done. there was a little setback. It was a little touch and go for a while because of something we'll discuss next, which is the HVAC situation, which made the room extremely cold, which affected the curing of the materials that they were using to repair the ceiling. So it delayed it just a little bit, but we had built in enough extra time that that we were good. And I just want to shout out to Service Master. Is that who they were? Is that right? Okay. Service Master, who was they were the company who came in, built the scaffolding, covered up the flooring, covered up all of the materials, all the books, got it prepared for the people who are going to come in and do the actual work on the ceiling. And then when the work on the ceiling was completed, they came back in, their team came back in and cleaned up the place because of all the chipping away and plaster and just dust everywhere. The room looks better than it has since 1927, so it just looks fantastic. They did a great job, and I was shocked at how conscientious they were, even down to informing me that one of our plants needed some water. They were just great. So I just can't say enough about how pleased I am with them. The work is done. There's not much to say about it other than it looks great. So I encourage everybody to come in and take a look, because
The ceiling's beautiful.
it was a little
really is.
unsightly. You know, if you didn't look up, it's fine. But once you looked up, you couldn't help but notice that.
Yeah.
You know, it had peeled away, and while it was peeling, dropping, you know, which
Yeah.
was unpleasant. So it's great to have that room in a state that it deserves.
Great. Any other questions for Tom on the cupola? He already mentioned the HVAC, so that's the second item,
Move on to that.
somewhat related.
So I had noticed that the historic reading room was particularly cold. And when I say cold, I mean like around 60, 61 degrees consistently, which was very trying. I had Renault come out, which are our HVAC people, and they did some investigating to figure out what was going on, why the units weren't working in that area, and discovered that that one of the HVAC units was malfunctioning. So it's still under warranty, and so they placed the order to get the new one in. It has. I heard on Monday that it was supposed to arrive yesterday or today, and so we scheduled for them to come tomorrow and Friday for the installation of that. So they will be on site Thursday and Friday for the installation of the new HVAC unit. They are also sending along some additional technicians to do some preventative maintenance, because there seem to be some issues with the HVAC system in general, and so they want to look into what's going on with that and why we are experiencing this. The unit that was malfunctioning was only installed, if you recall, in August. There were two that were malfunctioning then. They were under warranty. I had scheduled them. They were replaced. Between August and now, one of them has malfunctioned again. I have discussed this with the town administrators. I've discussed it with Renault. The consensus is that there are some issues with the building system. That there are some. I'm not an HVAC person, so
Design flaws. essentially.
design flaw sounds good. Yeah, I think that's where we're going. Yeah.
Are we talking geometry here where things are sort of snaking at all sorts of right angles through the building that?
That's the feeling I got. Right. I mean, it's a gorgeous building, but the design lends itself towards odd angles that are perhaps tricky. the idea of them sending the extra technicians is they're going to try to figure out what's going on with it. So we're not experiencing this as an ongoing issue.
Do we have any commentary from the manufacturer of the unit itself? Like, are they? I would think they'd be pushing to do some additional investigative work if they, unless they just think their unit's failing because it's the unit design.
So the feeling from the technician who came from Renault last time was that it was based on our system feeding into it. I don't know whether the company that makes the units is looking into this. Their attitude is, well, it's still under warranty, we'll just send you another one.
Okay.
So they're not questioning, why their unit is failing, which may tell us something right there. I'm not sure, but I can certainly look into that and see whether Renault can provide an update as to where the problem might lie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a large cost for the hardware itself that they're covering, but there's still costs to us for every time we have to get Renaud to come out and do it.
Right.
Okay.
And so under warranty sounds great, but it's just like with your car. But they still charge you labor, and so we are still responsible for that.
Okay. Any other questions from the board on the HVAC?
So I think what I'm hearing is that we've looked into the wording of the warranty and that it definitely does not include any amount of labor. I know the preventative piece would be on our dime, but as far as the warranty, does the fine print exclude any labor? I mean, all labor?
I'm not sure.
I just wouldn't want to be. I just wouldn't want to have us inadvertently overlooking some fine print
Yeah.
that does maybe speak to whether some or all or none.
Right.
What objectively that says.
Yeah, so maybe we can get a copy of that
Yeah.
Sure.
warranty and we can review it.
Sure.
I can help you review it if you want,
So.
or Roger can.
All right. Hey, I'll look at it.
See if there's a comma out of place or something.
Yeah, they've come out of place for typographical error, right?
Right.
Labor, comma is not included.
Yeah,
Labor is
lit-
not
lit.
comma.
You used a semicolon here, which negates the entire thing. So we no longer owe this. I can find out. I've discussed it with Renault. They're and I find them trustworthy. I've been happy working with them.
Yeah, I'm not I don't think we're questioning Renaud. We're just
Right,
questioning the contract, which Renaud might not have
Yeah,
seen.
yeah.
From an
So-
from an efficiency standpoint, and this is maybe a town question, or I don't know who is the sort of keeper of records when it comes to like just this building, all of the specs and all of the equipment that is been put in there and warranty and whatever. Is there like a repository of this stuff? Is it scanned in? Is it in a big stack of? I mean,
At least from the building committee, all that documents were in some town repository.
okay.
Repository, is that the right word? Yeah, it sounded funny. So I would assume that's where all the engineering drawings and warranties and hardware and all the ordering stuff was.
Right.
And the town administrator's office would be aware of that.
Cool.
But it's a good idea to review that agreement. Okay,
So the one last thing I have, which was in my director's report, which we're jumping into right now, is the payment for that labor. And when when you and I discussed this, you would believe that it could be paid for from the LEEDS funding,
the leads, yeah.
and that seems to be accurate, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
any costs associated with the original project
Right.
can be used at leads
Okay.
reimbursement account.
Great.
Great. So actually, the next item, teen office, is somewhat related.
Somewhat related.
We've certainly heard that the teen room, but especially the teen office, is very challenging to keep warm.
So right. So I was mentioning that I initially discovered the problem with the the meat locker atmosphere in the library, in the historic reading room, but it was really that part of the building that was affected by it. And so even though it was particularly noticeable in the reading room, the downstairs right underneath it, which is the teen room, parts of the teen room, not the entire teen room, but the makerspace area, the grotto where the teens come and hang out and play their video games, as well as the teen office.
Yeah.
So the rest of the teen room was was more on the unit that was doing the bulk of the new construction, but the area right underneath there was also very
That's
cold.
the older part.
The older part, right. So there, we'll see what happens with the new unit being installed. What my understanding is that it's going to fix the makerspace and the grotto area. The office space is just, if we can say, design flaw again. There's a tiny little vent in the office, and that's the only possible heat when it is working. Even when it is working, it's a really cold room. So,
And it's like at the end of the line too, right? If you look at the big the unit, it's,
Right.
it's got a big thing for the makerspace, and it goes down smaller,
Yeah.
going into her room.
yeah,
And there's actually no return in that office. So if the office door is closed, it's probably not getting much heat at all because there's
Right.
nowhere for that air to go.
Right.
So,
right.
do you know, was there any commentary last year? We obviously been in that office for a couple of years. Is it getting worse, or is
So discussing it with the teen librarian, she has expressed that, yes, this is an ongoing issue,
yeah?
that,
She's just maybe more vocal about it than.
Yeah.
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 Which she should be.
yeah,
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 definitely.
yeah. You know, I mean, so it sounds like it's never good, but it sounds like it was magnified by the
Right.
situation this year, right? So, you know, in previous years, if the office was getting a little bit of heat, it wasn't getting it this year, so it was even worse than usual. But even when it's repaired and the HVAC is working as it should be, it's still not a good situation. And so it would be great to try to think of some way that we could alleviate that.
So when Renault comes out tomorrow and Friday,
Yep.
Will they be giving suggestions as far as how to improve, like increasing the size of the register, or any other options?
I plan on talking. This is something I plan on discussing with them. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, because they're going to be looking for I'm not even sure exactly. Is there buildup in the pipe somewhere? I'm not sure exactly. But I also want to do a walk around the building just to see where there are places that we could improve.
Yep.
Are we still getting the funky noises and knocking sounds? Is that still happening?
It's one of the nice things about one of the units not working is we didn't have as much because, with the unit not working, it wasn't honking as much.
Okay.
We get them sometimes. Yeah, we get them sometimes. Every once in a while we'll hear a honk here or there. So.
For the teen room, I'm not an HVAC expert either, but I would envision one option would be making that vent bigger, right, so
Right.
more air goes in,
Right.
or just installing some kind of secondary heater.
And that's what I'm wondering as well. And
'Cause I don't think they can even add a return in there just from the location. It's that old building. It's the old part of the building. But
Right.
Renault, they're the experts. Hopefully they'll
Exactly.
be able to get it.
Exactly. So I want to hear what their recommendations would be, and it doesn't help that it's on the outside wall too.
Yes.
Because the office in the children's room is not much better. It actually has a very similar output heat
Yeah.
vent. But
But it's interior.
But they're interior.
Yeah.
They're cushioned by all the other warmer rooms, and so it isn't as noticeable as I understand it. but the teen room is particularly cold
Yeah.
because it's right there on the roadside, and it gets chilly.
Yep. Is she comfortable with the current heater in there? And like, is that going to be a good short-term solution until we can figure out what's next? Like, is she happy with, doesn't she have a portable heater in there now?
Believe she does.
Okay.
Believe she does.
Well, just make sure she has a good short-term
Yeah.
solution,
Yeah.
that she's happy there, and then we can figure out long-term
Right.
after talking to Renaud.
Right.
I guess at the risk of venturing into another part of the building but related is that that door right there that was problematic regarding rain coming in, is that fixed? And if, as far as tumblers, and if not, is there some space where that may be causing heat to escape from the bottom of the door, or no?
I don't believe so. So first of all, no, it hasn't been fixed yet, though town administrator and I have contacted somebody to come and start that project because we've had some additional issues with the gutters, both on that side and as well some rain leakage on the other side of the building as during that.
But there's no draft.
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
No.
It's not that close to the teen office, like
It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's a
Oh, yeah, we're
distance
talking
away.
the other end. When you
Yeah,
talk
it's-
It's
the office,
halfway.
you're talking about the
It's halfway,
circulation
yeah.
desk? Oh, the office behind the circulation desk?
I'm
In
talking
the
about the
teen
room?
teen office.
It's like in the back right.
Oh, so you're talking the
maker's-
opposite end, of course, okay.
No, it's still on the same wall as that,
Right.
the door, but
Okay.
it's like
There's
20 feet away.
Yeah.
So it's
Basically in the old building
Right.
section.
It's right next to the maker space.
Okay.
So it's in that little corner there. So it's two outside walls.
Right.
You know, for that little office.
I had taken a picture of the room, but I can't seem to find it. Okay, sounds great. Well, hopefully we'll learn something from Enrod.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on the teen office? So if not, we'll move on to the Friends update with Carrie.
Okay. So the Friends had their board meeting last Tuesday, the 10th. And so the Friends participated in Grafton Celebrates the Holidays. They were thrilled to be back in the Friends Corner. There's a table set up where they, and in the entire room, selling book bundles, which were popular, and more of the Lego libraries that were designed by Allison Kusher years ago, and and the gifted went to Tom, which is nice. So they were able to raise some money, during that event, and we're happy to do that. They have the ongoing Friends Corner book sales, and also the book bundles are continuing to sell through the month. So thank you, Tom, for allowing them to have the tables there with the book bundles for display. So that's great. They tried a new approach to accepting book donations last month, and they were really happy with the way that it turned out. So what they're doing is they're putting out a call for book donations and and similar materials for the first Friday of the month, first Friday and Saturday. So they did that right before the Grafton Celebrates the Holidays last month, and then this month, so it's whatever the first Friday falls. So in January, that's going to be Friday, January 3rd, and Saturday, January 4th, and that worked really well. So they want to kind of continue to do that. They
I don't mean to interrupt, but those donations, are they done on that outside book drop or are they inside?
That has been sealed off. We've talked about reopening it. They do feel very strongly at this point that is not workable, and they really want to do this approach of doing like the Fridays and the Saturdays. So they're hoping that works for people, and they can kind of plan accordingly. So
Great.
yeah, there's no plans at this point to reopen the book drop. Yep, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So so thank you. Oh, and the next board meeting will be Tuesday, January 14th, and via Zoom at 7:30.
Great, and I would encourage trustees, not all of us, or not a quorum of us, but to attend that Grafton, the Friends meeting. So if you haven't attended, in the last year, I would encourage you guys to join one of those meetings.
And if you're interested in joining, I know, folks have, you let me know and I can share the Zoom link as well.
So January 14th, and that's a Tuesday? Is that a Tuesday? They do
They
Tuesday.
do it Tuesday at 7:30, and it's done now via Zoom, and it works out just really well doing that.
Oh, that's too bad. They don't do it in the library anymore?
They don't do it in the library, but it really, it works out
Works.
better, just, with the weather, it just, and,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody goes to the library too, so, it's not like they're not there, they're collecting the books, they're, doing events and everything, so.
Yep. Great. Any questions for Carrie?
Yeah,
on the Friends?
Carrie, thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah, oh,
And,
no, that's a pleasure.
Yeah, and then, question regarding the book, those book drop-offs, do they get, is some or all of the issue that they get full too quickly, people, dropping off subpar materials, are they compromised in the rain, or all of the above?
All of the above, and yeah, all of the above. They just so if it's in the book drop, you do have to check it frequently, and then you have to transport it into the library, and then sort through it, and then the storage. Like there's the in the Friends corner, there is the Friends workroom, and there are some shelves in there, but there isn't the same space that they used to have when we had the down under in the library. So the storage is actually off site. It's it's one of those little like garage units. So, and I mean, if you would like to attend a meeting and convince to do that, but I've talked to them and I expressed the hope that would be reopened, and they feel very, very strongly that just is not workable at this point, and they would like to do it this way, where the books come in those two times, and then it's just very efficient for them. So people drop them off, they're on a table, they can sort through it, decide what's trash, what's going to get transported off site.
Right, thank
So, but if you'd like to join and and make suggestions, of course, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I have no strong opinion one way or the other. I was just curious as to, a lot of times these drop-offs, and analogous to clothing,
Yeah.
people literally like dump garbage either in front of or in things. It's just kind of gross.
I mean, of course, that
you know.
does happen sometimes, that you get things that just aren't, and
Right.
but you would be really surprised at some of the really amazing condition materials that are donated. Like they look like literally somebody just bought them at a store and dropped it off. It's really, people are very generous, so we're fortunate.
Awesome. Great, thank you.
Great. Is there, and then I guess my only other question, I assume there's clear information that tells people that it's this first Friday, Saturday. So if they go into the
Yeah,
library
so-
to donate something, they can see a sign and so I should come back.
Yeah, and then they do a newsletter. So the newsletter, and then they also kind of post it on the.
Mhm.
Right, so yeah.
Great. Any final questions for Carrie regarding the Friends?
So, I think the book drop was just kind of adopted because it was the old book drop for the library.
It was the old
So
book drop.
that
at
was
the
never
library.
certainly
Actually, true.
something that was always available for donations. So I think they just adopted it for a while. They tried it, So I would anticipate that coming back because it was never like an amenity that the Friends really had offered.
Do we think, I don't know, Tom, if you've noticed that book drop, but if we're never going to use it, should we consider removing it? Either trying to sell it or just get it out of the way?
If it's metal, scrap metal drive,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. Well, it's something we could consider next year.
We're not going to be using it,
Right. Yep.
that's for sure.
Right.
And sounds like they're not going to be using it. And it does invite people to leave things there,
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
because people still have a mindset of, oh, I'll just put it over by the book drop. We have had somebody just recently left a laundry basket full of clothes by it, so
Right.
getting rid of it would be a great idea.
Okay.
Sounds
There's-
good.
Actually, if I may, I was just recently contacted by an organization that accepts donations of clothing and then distributes them. And I need to get more information about it, but they put out a bin, like like
Mini
a truck.
dumpster, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and people can donate clothing, and then they sell that to in
Thrift stores.
thrift stores, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And the library actually receives partial funding from that. We could actually get some.
So are they
donations from
looking to
that.
place one on library property?
Right, and so
Okay.
they contact libraries to see if they're interested in having one of these on their site. So something that I would rather have that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'll say that I'm all for those type of initiatives and everything like that. The more the merrier. That,
Yeah.
that you call attention to that there are donations available. But I'm wondering if, in getting rid of the book, bin, that you're simply swapping one ill for another. I think that once you start saying that you're going to be taking clothing, I go to one in the Stop and Shop parking lot, the St. Vincent de Paul, the row of blue bins, and it's gross what people leave out there, and like a ton of it. And my thought is that as much as it's a great cause and we would stand to benefit from those sales, I think you'd have tenfold an issue on your hand if you had a clothing drop off.
I think that's very likely.
I'm just that's been my experience.
It's a good point, and there's a lot of places in town
There are a lot.
There
that
are,
offer that
that's
amenity.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people are looking to donate
In
for clothing for a
especially,
good cause,
so one of the things to think about too is who, if there's a cost and as a fundraiser, right, for these, they're probably getting the same benefit by leaving these bins on their property. So you're now taking potential profits from someone else in
other
town by
community.
offering something like that.
that's we've got enough on our hands just being a library. So
Yeah.
I think
That's just my 2 cents.
yeah.
That's all.
No, I,
No, it's a great point.
I think it's
People
good.
just don't behave. Really. I mean, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, that's why I wanted to bring it up, just to see what the
Yep.
feeling was in the room, and I think we'll pass on this one.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the community room reservation update. This was mine. This is really more just a question, since I missed last month. I believe the community room is open for room reservations during library hours. Is that all up and running on the website, everything?
Yes,
That's great.
It sure is.
a couple of reservations already.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Oh,
Yeah,
Great.
they're rolling in. So Kim,
And are you finding like they're for half the room or for the full room, or I'm assuming if someone wants it, even if they're a smaller group, you just give them the whole room if no one else has reserved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
That's great.
We haven't run into any situation where we'd have to split. If that came up, we can, but as of now, we're just giving people the whole room.
Great.
The information about it on the website was updated. The link is working,
yes.
so we're getting we're getting the
Great.
request.
So then my follow-up question, of course, is then out of library operating hours. Has there been any further discussion on what needs to get done so that we can open that potentially like on a Sunday or later at night after 8 o'clock?
The issue remains the alarm system. So now that the new front door locking system is in place and working, that's not prohibitive. But the issue is still that there's no way to securely set the alarm after an event.
So I know that, for example, with I believe it's Millbury Street School, people can rent out the cafeteria area, like the scouts do that for their courts of honor and stuff. And the fee, there's a fee associated with it, and I think at least part of it goes to like janitorial services to have someone to open up the building and close it up afterwards and make sure everything's clean and all that stuff too. So I don't know if that's something that would like be of interest to librarians to be like, hey, does anyone, if we have someone who wants to come in on a Sunday for an event, could we get a librarian to come in and they could count that as part of their hours? I don't know if that's at all something that's that we could make work, but I figured I'd just throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the conversation with Tom. I mainly brought it up here because I wanted to gauge what the board's interest was in offering, the library community room after hours. I feel like it's a valuable resource. It was designed to be open after hours with that security gate that goes across. But obviously, as we've talked about, we would still need to have somebody on staff.
Yep.
Or at least a trained, responsible person in the building for that time, because people could hop the fence and go upstairs. You got to deal with the locking and the alarm system. But I feel like we could, if it's not a staff that's willing to do it, we could train like the janitor or train somebody that could function in that role. But I don't know, what's the thoughts of the board?
I mean, it seems like a great resource. And if there's a lot of interest for it, then it seems like that's even more of a reason to do it. And I don't know that we know because we haven't really done it yet.
Right. I don't know, are you getting any requests for off hours?
Not specifically.
It's hard to know when you don't,
Yeah.
it's not mentioned on the website, so people might
Right.
assume that it's not available,
I
but
thought there was one group who had reached out, or is that more of a speculation that someone might want to come in on a Sunday?
There had been discussion about a request for a Sunday, but it was for the historic reading room,
Okay.
which we can't close down at all. Like
Yeah.
that, you can't block that off from the rest of the building.
Right.
So that, I'm very hesitant about opening that up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would suggest maybe reaching out to the town and see what they have set up for the schools, with their janitors and see if that's their custodians and see if that's something
Yeah,
that.
so our maintenance is on site in the morning and, throughout the day with the normal upkeep of the building, but they don't work.
Right, and I don't think the school, when we've rented out the school for scouts, I don't think they've been there either. They come in to open it for the event, but they're getting paid for that time and stuff like that. So, but I don't know how they work that out with their custodians in the town and all that stuff. I'm not sure that process.
So, I believe we talked a lot about this in one of the policies. I'm kind of digging deep here, but a lot of it was carry in, carry out kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Any excessive trash, that sort of thing. We spoke about that in the policy, and also any damage, right? So generally, it's inspected during library hours, and then if it's misused when nobody's around, then that group is held responsible. So that's sort of kind of built into that policy as well. So
Yeah, the custodian thing was more so about just being there to open the building and being there to close it
gotcha.
down.
Okay, I missed
Yeah.
that. Any discussion about how the alarm works for that part of the building, or is the consensus that it can't be zoned?
Cannot be zoned. Yeah, it's for the building.
I think
Set
it seems a little bit odd, but I think regardless, it would need a responsible person that's responsible for the alarm, the locking of the door, and just the building itself.
You're making sure that they exit at the time.
Right,
they're
making sure that
supposed
everyone
to.
exits, they
Yeah.
go in, they turn everything off, just like the staff does on their way out. They lock the doors, they set the alarm, and they leave, and they know no one's in the building. So that's why we'd have to pay that
So
person.
yeah, so the Nelson Library that is open to community groups,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know that it's alarmed in the same way. I don't know what the security mechanisms are over there, but certainly if we have, we have a camera system I guess somebody could do something nefarious in parts of the building while it's not alarmed, you know, but that's kind of true of any building that has public access. So, I don't know. I mean, I really want to offer this to the town, and I want to find a way to do it because, I mean, this is more of a commentary for Doug and the building committee because you were on the building committee for so long. What was the thought process surrounding doing this, right? And why is it now such a big showstopper now that it's, you know, we're ready to do it?
You know, the building committee was always discussed and designed to be open off hours. You know,
Right.
you have access to the bathrooms,
Yeah.
the entranceway, and you have the upstairs is locked off. The children's room, the teen room is all locked off. So the library, I'm sorry, the elevator would be off.
Yeah.
So
Discussion about the alarm.
physically,
Yeah.
they wouldn't do it. I was just assuming. I don't think we had any specific discussions about the alarm, but yeah, it could have been under the assumption that someone was going to be responsible for that with the system.
I see.
And did we ever have any off-hour events or requests for off-hour events?
Yeah, we did. We had friends.
Well, other than ones where library staff were attending or trustees were attending?
I
I
don't
think
think
there was
so.
a party that one of the previous trustees had in the community room after hours.
I mean, we certainly had the wedding in the
Yeah.
No, but this is different.
just in the community.
Yeah,
room,
they had
okay.
they had a party or something because we had discussion during a board meeting about setting up, you know, for that room prior to closing.
Yeah.
Because they were going to have it after hours,
Gotcha.
right? So we've done that. I just don't know how the alarms worked out. But I will say this: I work at a bank, and we have alarm codes for individuals, right? So you can key it in such that, you know, people would have their own code or some code that is given to a group, and it could be a one-time thing. I don't know, you know, if it's going to add a lot of burden on the staff to kind of manage the alarm codes, if we can be trained how to do that. But certainly, and we also have a security department at the
Right.
at the bank, you know, so I don't want to add extra burden there, but I'm sure it can be done, you know, to have certain alarm codes.
I guess I had a question that I guess, aside from those functions that are entirely outside of our operating hours,
Yep.
we have the dynamic now that because we close at 8 instead of 9,
Yep.
like they were like different meetings of the town or the Ask Me Anything select board where it's sort of like, all right, let's say it started at 7. A lot of those start at 7 and they would go an hour and a half and then the people in the room or running that meeting would be given a little cue to say, all right, you know, the store is closing in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, if so that people would be out 15 minutes before the close of the building. So like something that started at 7 could go as late as, let's say, 8:30. People are mingling maybe for 10 to 15 minutes, then everyone has departed. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Right now, you'd have to be out of there within 45 minutes, not an hour and 45.
Correct.
So it does kind of, you know, I mean, even a hard lecture, like a lecture with a hard stop at 1 hour would put you at,
Yeah, you still
at 8 o'clock. You'd go
Yeah.
over. And so I don't know what the answer is to that, but to have had that extra hour really opened up there was more opportunity for like even just townwide stuff or meetings to be held one-off in that space.
Yeah,
I mean-
and so probably a topic for another meeting. Certainly library hours is something I'd like to revisit because the policy subcommittee, we can't meet at 7 o'clock anymore at the library because we have to be out by 7. You can only reserve it till 7:30.
Right.
And then by 7:45 you're being, so we had to start our meetings at 6:30. So that's what we've been doing.
Yep.
To give us enough time. So, you know, certainly meetings in general are one of the things that, you know, are restricted because of the shortened hours, but not for this discussion.
Yeah.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
But it was just just a different dynamic that entered into the topic where part of the function was during hours and the other part kind of spilled over.
Yeah.
So,
So what I would propose maybe is that, or not maybe, what I would propose would be that Tom and I could put together a list of roles and responsibilities of what's needed to be done to close out the building. You know, the alarm system, locking, turn out the
Locking's
lights,
done.
whatever.
Locking is well.
So, well, what I'm getting at is if we can
Locking's not
come,
done, because the locking would be okay. So there are a couple of different. There are a few things, right? So the locking is set for the regular hours,
yep,
right? So we would have to determine whether we would want to be changing that or not. So let's say, you know, if the scouts want to have a jamboree in the community room till 10 o'clock, are we keeping the doors open, unlocked until 10 o'clock? Because what I would be concerned about, one thing I would be concerned about is that if patrons not associated with the event are driving by and they see cars in the parking lot and lights on in the library, they're going to want to stop in. Oh, I can pick up my hold, or oh, I didn't know the library was open now, and they're going to be coming in. So I'd be concerned about changing the locking system and the hours. So if an event is starting at 6 and going to 10, I think we would still want to leave the locking to be the regular hours.
Yeah. That's a good point about the holds too, because now you keep the holds, out. So
Yep.
if you had an event in the community room and the holds are out there,
It's a whole other.
people could just take
Yep.
the materials
Yep.
without properly checking them
Right.
out.
Right.
so maybe we can work together to put together questions, steps to close the building, caveats, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then decide if we want to put together a program so we can either offer it to staff, someone would have to get trained, whether it's custodial staff or regular staff, or a third party, like maybe one of the trustees wants to do it. They get trained up and certified to do this. And then we can offer that at the next meeting.
I don't know. Somebody running the after hours kind of program or access. I'm more of somebody who would like to automate that sort of a thing.
Well, certainly, if we can automate
You know,
it.
that would be where my head would, I'd like to start there, and we can
Okay.
figure out what actually a human is needed in the process, right? Maybe start from zero and figure out what the
We go for step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
Can any of these be automated?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. I personally would be in favor of allowing access to the historic reading room for community events after hours. And I know that's a huge endeavor and would require more people on staff overseeing that event. But I would certainly be in favor of that in the future. Now, whether it's a once a year type thing or twice a year type thing, certainly not for the everyday event. But I certainly because it's such a special room in this.
It is. It's
In this,
amazing.
I mean, even during the week, a late night event like 8 to 10 or something like that. But I recognize that there are numerous challenges in being able to offer that. So certainly, Plan A would be, or first step would be dealing with the community room, and then consider other things. Okay,
So if I may,
of course.
we can have this discussion and we can figure out what would entail, and I would then be willing to have the discussion with the town about maintenance, or
Yep.
with my staff about possibility of covering this. But I just want to raise that previously the staff was not unionized. So when this might have been taking place in the past, it was at a time when they didn't have the union, and so this may raise additional issues because we would be asking people to be going beyond the scope of their positions.
Yep.
So I think that would definitely be a concern, justifiable concern that people would have.
I honestly think both situations, the community room after hours or any of the library after hours would not be considered a staff responsibility. It's like optional if they want to get trained outside their normal role. That's just my thought, right?
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. I mean, certainly, especially for the historic reading room, because that opens up much more of the library, and you might need more than one person there. You might need multiple people there. Okay.
And then I guess with the historic reading room, we don't have the bathroom there anymore, right?
Nope.
So that, because we used to have a bathroom like on the side. And
That's what I mean. That would require
Well,
much more
It's gonna be
access to
open
much
anyway,
more of the
but
building.
there's no way to block off the rest
stack.
of the library.
Yeah,
if
and
you're
you'd,
using-
you'd have to install something in that doorway but then you
But then
don't
that's
have the
not
bathroom.
allowing for
that-
restroom. So
Correct.
And it's not.
It's not
it's
accessible. Are you saying that if there was only the front entrance versus the
It
main?
wouldn't be accessible.
Yeah, then you have an accessibility issue, right?
That's why I'm thinking this is like a once a year event, like a big, 100-year
Or our-
anniversary for the
well,
library.
Which is going to be coming up soon.
Yeah, 100-year celebration of the library or something. Okay. Certainly not a critical thing to get anytime soon. Okay.
Okay.
So any other questions on community room or anything like that? But it sounds like we have at least a plan forward for next month.
So next month we'll start talking about that, but then also, as Aaron said, like revisiting the hours too for
Yeah,
the.
that would be a separate line item,
Yeah, I'll,
or agenda item.
I'll probably request that on the agenda.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is the walkabout. Did Chris and John get a chance to do the walkabout?
You did, went on Monday.
Excellent.
Do you want to go through items? Should I?
I'll let you take it if you have the
Okay.
notes and everything.
So nearly all of them are already mentioned by Tom or in his report. So I'll mention them. That includes the teen room door, and there was note that there was some water that had come through with the storms, I think, over the weekend or very recently whenever we had that rain. Kind of the ongoing heat issue, also mentioned. Reading room being very cool, we had noticed that. Tom's mentioned that as well. The other thing that came up that was the upholstery on some of the chairs in the teen room, which sounds like they had notified somebody and that was expected to be kind of on a list at some point. So I don't think any of those are unknown or new, but we did think it looked great, particularly the ceiling. Thought it looked really good. Any other items, John?
There was one thing that had been brought up like last year, or the year before, I think, but Sarah from the children's room brought it up. There's a piece of trim that's missing upstairs in like the study, not the study rooms, but the study area in the main stacks area. So there's just a piece of trim underneath one of the windows that overlooks the little children's outdoor theater area. That's just, I think it had fallen off and it just had never gotten put back. So I would guess it's floating around somewhere, maybe in like the staff lounge or something like that.
So can we add that to the punch list?
Yes, absolutely.
That seems like an easy fix.
I think that was it though.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks again for taking the time to do the walkabout. Does anyone want to volunteer for next month? I know you guys have both been doing it for numerous months now.
I'm happy to keep doing it.
I'll
Okay.
join you.
Great.
So will the focus be exterior next time? Because I think when Doug used to do it, you would alternate.
We'd swap, yeah.
Yeah.
We did both.
You
We've
did
done both every
Great.
time that we've done it together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if the weather's bad, we'll skip the outside maybe.
Yeah.
And then make sure to hit it the next time, or if the weather's good, maybe we'll just do both. So
Great.
Okay.
Can I add a follow-up to something that was brought up by the walkabout previously?
Yep,
Which is
of course.
The car chargers.
Oh, yep.
oh yeah,
You had mentioned about that, and so I just want to let you know that we are working with the company to resolve some of the issues there. So the name on it needs to be the current director, so it's been changed to me. The fact that one of them is not working, we're working with them, and we need to
Shut the main.
shut off the main breaker, leave it off for 2 to 5 minutes, and then turn it back on, and they're hoping that will reboot it.
To the whole library?
No, to the
Okay. I would hope it had a
actually
separate
the whole
circuit.
center of town.
That's right, the whole
Yeah. So Uncommon Cow is going to be shut down for a while because we got to get our car charger back on.
Yeah.
No, just for the car charger. So we're trying to determine which breaker that is, and once we do, we are going to be working with it. We're working with them to figure that out. So that should be resolved relatively soon.
Great.
The other issue that was raised was that it was listing as being free to charge, which was intentional. So I spoke to the town about that, and that was when they were installed. It was part of a grant that they were working for.
That's right.
Ah,
To and one of the requirements of the grant was that you would provide car charging for free. And so that's why those were set up as complimentary charging.
And is that indefinitely that it's going to be free?
Do you get a report on how much electricity expenses there are?
I can get that information. Yeah, I mean, I have a login for the
Wait.
company we're working with is called Amp Up, and so they do have a dashboard that I can get into to see how much.
Is that being
usage
covered
is.
by your library budget? Or is that covered by the town?
That's in our library budget.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't remember that.
Because that's probably just on the electric bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just included.
There is a charge with this company actually. There's a yearly charge.
Oh, to have this service?
Yeah.
In addition to the actual electricity
Right.
charge.
John,
Yeah, I thought we had.
because you wrote the policy on the parking lot and you brought in some of the terminology surrounding the chargers. I think we combined those two policies, right?
Yeah, I think we combined them, and I thought there was a charge at some point when the previous director was here, and I swear I remember having a conversation where I asked about like, oh, do we get that? Does the library get that money? And I think I remember hearing no, that the money would go to the town. So I thought at least at one point in time that there was a charge associated with that, and that the town would get the money.
Right.
I remember that too.
Okay.
That we were wondering whether that would be a nice little sum on our balance sheet, and it was some sort of trade-off where the town got that money, but now it's on our electric bill, or has it always been on our electric bill?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there's two different
Two
charges.
different issues here. Yeah.
So there's
Okay.
there's the amp up service that we
Right.
pay for, right?
Right.
So that we pay for, which that's probably just like a fixed fee.
Right.
And then there's the electricity charge. Do you know if the electricity charge if that's tied into the actual library?
That, as I understand it, is just part of our regular utilities.
Yeah, so I think the overall goal for having the chargers in town was also we were trying to figure out what rates to set. For whatever reason, we had a lot of discussion about this.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be pertinent to figure out, because the town was going to install chargers somewhere at the municipal center, and kind of follow their guidelines, because we decided to scrap the whole fee structure and kind of defer to what the town would do. That way it's the same across the board. So I don't know if Amp Up is working on old information, or we were just misinformed before, but there was a lot of discussion about that.
I actually got this from the town.
You did?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And was also informed, they did mention that they just installed some here at the municipal center,
Yeah.
and they're complimentary.
Wow.
They're not charging for that.
Can we, so that was to the, you mean town administrator? I wonder if they could have shared that original agreement with us.
We could request that.
So that wasn't
I
part
can
of the
request
lead
that.
certification, that was something separate, a townwide initiative?
I believe it was a separate grant that was, one of the requirements was to provide this.
I mean, and to be clear, like I think this is fine. I just more am
Yeah.
curious what the actual charges will be to the library, over the course of a year, especially as more EVs are on the road. So I wonder if we could like take the get the report of like what's been used so far, and then maybe extrapolate that out to like, if it's being used 10% of the time, what happens if that goes up to 70% of the time for like, library operating hours or something like that, and if that would actually have an impact to the budget or not. But hopefully not.
Yeah, and also if this was a town initiative, then why isn't the town picking up the cost of Amp Up, right? That this is a library budget item. So
Yeah,
it almost seems, I thought it was a library item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd have to go
across.
look and review my notes from the building committee
Yeah.
with that. But I'll reach out to William about just the agreement in general, so we can have a little bit more information to share.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks for looking into that.
I agree though, it's a great service,
Yeah.
that we have at the library. Any other discussion, comments on the walkabout? If not, new business is the strategic plan for Roger. Certainly extremely important for this group as well as Tom and the library.
That was actually, I think this was inadvertently carried over from our last month's agenda, because as noted in the minutes we just approved, that you were going to take over that task of overseeing the committee.
So I had, I actually went out to get a coordinator, a strategic plan coordinator, and I had somebody lined up. But I think the timing just was not conducive to not having a director at the time, because I think the director still plays a very big, large role in that, I believe.
Right.
So to kind of dig up that information, I don't think would be very hard to do.
Right.
And I think that we were under some pressure to get it done. But I think in the absence of a director, and really no impact to our ability, this is only impacts if we want to apply for new grants,
Right. Correct.
right? And that we didn't have any grants in mind, that it kind of alleviated some of the pressure. So certainly, starting this initiative in 2025, I think is a good idea, because we are overdue. Was the last one 2020?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it was
Expired.
2020, I think.
It was started in 2020 because we had the first meeting of the strategic committee it was at the temporary library at the church.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, so
Yeah.
then we didn't have we were supposed to have like 3 sessions or at least 2 sessions, and that the second session never happened. It was only one session.
Okay.
It was probably like February, or like it was early 2020, because it was literally right before. Was that?
Wasn't it 2019?
I think it might have been
Well-
2019.
Was it before? So maybe it was at the end of 2019. It could have been. I thought that it was.
Well, I guess regardless, can we have, like, Aaron, are you still
4
agreeing to
years.
take the lead on it and work with Tom to figure out what the next step is?
Yes.
Okay.
Because Doug, you weren't here last month, and then this was an agenda item last month
Yep.
as well, so.
So we can, let's keep it on the agenda for next month, but
Yeah.
either move it to Tom or Aaron. Does that sound all right, Roger?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I mean, if it's just an update about what's progressed,
Yeah.
what our plan is for the coming, or 2025 to start putting that in place.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Aaron.
Yep.
Next is the policy update with Aaron.
So the policy subcommittee, we met on December 5th, which was a Thursday, kind of out of band of our normal meeting, just because we couldn't get enough committee members on the Wednesday. Generally, we like to meet on the first Wednesday of every month. And we met at the library at 6:30 p.m. We talked about the pandemic policy again, because this is a kind of a new task that Tom is taking on. He's learning how Grafton works and how to interface with legal counsel, right? So I think we had decided that he was permitted to submit things directly to legal. So that's why that one's being held up. And then we finished the program policy. It was like 4 or 5 pages. Essentially, the one we have, I don't know if you recall this, but the one we have on the website is like half a paragraph. This one was like a 7-pager. So we finally finished going through it as a committee and trimming it down. Now we're at the point where we have to make sure it flows properly and make sure there's really nothing redundant in there. And that'll be done at the next meeting.
That's
So-
great. So do you think that'll be ready for our review and approval next meeting? Or just a
No.
review?
Neither.
Okay,
Neither.
gotcha.
Certainly these documents are public record, so if anybody couldn't attend the meeting and wanted to see kind of where we are in workshopping any of these, you can. But the process flow is, the policy subcommittee, right? And then what? Legal?
Legal, yeah.
Legal?
Legal union
Yes.
trustees.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we still have a little bit more to go with that one. I don't believe there's any urgent need. We don't have anybody questioning the programming policies at the moment. I think we had a general discussion because a lot of it was pertinent about, waiting lists and people who just don't show up, and how do you deal with, people who just aren't showing up regularly. I think in the policy it said things like, well, they can be put on a automatic wait list, for somebody who doesn't show up often. It's like, well, we really can't sustain something like that. So that's kind of what we talked about. So we feel that the policy is in a good place, so that, we can move that one along. Beyond that, the other items we're going to review going forward is the library displays policy. We have a volunteer policy to review, and the material selection policy, which are all pretty meaty policies. So really having an hour a month, we're getting a flow. We have some new committee members, so we're trying to see what our capacity for cranking out policies are. We don't want to just work on too many at once, because then you tend to get nothing done. So we found that the new way to work is really working well for us. Beyond that, I believe Kim said that we may have a new policy committee member. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it okay to announce who's interested?
All right. Yes.
Mary Mertland
Oh, great.
from the library staff.
Yep.
I don't know that I know who that is.
So she's the department head for borrower services.
Excellent, great. So it'd be fantastic to have another, librarian on our subcommittee staff. So the next meeting is going to be via Zoom, is what we talked about on January 8th. But that was really just out of concern because the last meeting was really kind of windy and nasty outside, to rush out right after dinner and come to the library. We may have the next few meetings via Zoom, is what we had talked about. So we'll be sure to post that ahead of time. So, any questions, comments, thoughts? Anything to add, John or Tom or Kim?
I think Mary's been with the library, but is it like a year now, I think?
Just about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just about last January that she was hired.
Great, okay, that's great.
Yep.
Nice
Great.
stepping up.
Yeah, I certainly want to extend my thanks to the policy committee. I know it's a lot of work, and appreciate the time and your commitment for that.
I second that. Just looking, I'd gone in and looking at our own webpage, I noticed immediately on the subcommittee agenda.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
They're busy. No, sir.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Excellent. If there are no other questions on the policy update, we're moving on to number 8, the director's report by Tom.
Right, okay. As usual, some of these things have been discussed already, but we'll go through some of these. So I have some statistics for usage of the library. I always like to let you know what's going on. Total circulation was up over 10,000, which was an increase from October, so that was nice to see circulation going up. Patrons added was substantial, actually, which was really nice to see. So we were up to 95 new patrons added in October. For November.
November, right.
Substantial increase from October, where it was only about, I think it was 67. So, this is over 3 a day new patrons that we're getting added to the library, which is really fantastic.
That's great.
So the overdrive usage, the e-resources was down just a little bit, but it goes. So there we go. But the other usage is certainly high, and programming and activities are thriving. Staffing, no current staffing needs, which is really nice to be able to say.
Yep.
I did want to bring up that there's going to be a staff development day on January 16th, which I bring up now just because it will be before the next trustees meeting. It'll be occurring, so since this is on the approved calendar that we did previously.
Yep.
But I just wanted to remind you, because since the library will be closed that day, I think I need to get your approval to be able to close it that day. If that's correct?
It's on the calendar
It's on,
already?
it's on the calendar that we already approved the
And
calendar,
it's
so we're good.
assumed, okay,
Yep.
great, good. We're good. Thank you.
And if you need any, I mean, you normally don't, but if you need any of our trustee help, support, attendance to that meeting, let us know.
I will let you know. I'll let you know. Good. Good. As I plan it, I'll let you know what we can do. So, children's room update. Children's room is thriving, and continues to be such a wonderful community hub. As I mentioned, I would encourage everybody to stop in because it's just gorgeous, and particularly some of the decorations and themes that are up around the room are just wonderful and engaging. I was down there yesterday, and a new family came in. They're actually from another town that shall remain nameless, and they said we had heard this was such a great library, and they came in, and I showed them to where the room was, and they were just thrilled.
Oh, great.
Fell for the place, couldn't believe that they could return their materials from the other library at ours. I mean, everything about it was just fantastic. Things that we sometimes take for granted that, yeah, of course we can do that for you. And it was wonderful to see the child was immediately engaged in the activities and in the room in general. And so it's just a thriving, engaging place. So
Great. It's very exciting to hear.
after quite a few reports of having not so enjoyable things to report about the children's room, I will gladly just say it's doing well. Cupola project we discussed, so that's fine. Grafton Celebrates the Holidays was wonderful, as Doug had mentioned earlier. It was a great event. We were well over 400 people to the library. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I
It
know.
was hopping,
And it was
yeah.
kind of interesting because it started off, so I was informed a little slow, a little. It wasn't, people were saying like, gee, this isn't as many people as we've had previously. My first time, I didn't know. But when it picked up, it sure
was
did.
very busy.
We're situated in such a nice place for this because we've got the parking lot. And so people come and they park there, and well, why don't we stop at the library? And so they come in as their. I heard so many times, oh, this is our first stop.
Wow.
And then being right across the street from where the tree lighting and the big guy in the red suit are going to be, we had a lot of people just congregating.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, people can start there, do the other events, and then end up back
and then
there
end up
again.
there. Right, it's a good place to warm up.
Yeah.
Do another couple of activities
Facilities.
before they head over to the common. So it was great.
I just want to say it was so wonderful to see the entire library utilized. So the children's events were in the community room. We had the Friends Corner utilized.
Yep.
There's events for the teens. There's events upstairs for adults.
Right.
And then there was the story in
Yeah.
the historic reading room
Reading
for
room,
the
we had a
children
storyteller.
before.
Yep.
So that was just, fantastic. And then even in the children's room, even the community room was being used for the craft, but children were playing in the children's room. So it just really, the entire library was
Yep.
used.
Teen room was
Yeah.
really active. I was
Yep.
I was a little
Yep.
surprised by that, I will say. My expectations were, I'm not sure whether the teens are doing Grafton Celebrates the Holidays. They were.
Yeah,
They
no,
were. The
yeah,
activities were
they,
really well
they were.
attended.
That craft was really cool too. Like
Yeah, it
the
was good.
blow dryer, like that was neat.
Yeah. So all in all, great event. We also got some new library cards. Some people were stopping in and
Awesome.
didn't have library cards, so we were welcoming them in the community. So all in all, just a very positive event.
Yeah.
So I was very pleased to have done that for my first time.
And what I loved at the end of the day, when you called me over and you did the group picture with all the library staff,
Yeah.
that was fantastic. And
Yeah.
everybody just had such a great attitude and clearly really enjoyed participating in the event. And that just made it for me. So
For us to be smiling at the end of the day was a
yeah,
good
it was wonderful.
commentary, I guess.
Yeah.
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 And thank you for getting the player piano going.
And the player
Oh,
piano.
that was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Kim did
I
the
missed
research.
I meant to
Yeah.
mention that. That
Yeah.
was
Oh my
awesome.
Gosh, yeah. I
Yeah,
missed it.
so Kim did the research to find out how we actually get the app loaded and working, and we put together a playlist, and it was running the entire time and sounded great. sounded great. And actually, if I've had requests from staff, whether if we could have it playing more often, like especially if they're, when they're working down at the welcome desk
Definitely.
down there.
Cool.
It's just nice, a nice,
Oh, that's
a nice
fantastic.
added touch. So
I totally missed that.
yeah, yeah, it sounds good. So I'm glad we had it tuned.
Yeah, it was kind of subdued, but
Yeah.
you know, you notice immediately when you walk in the community room. It's right by the door.
As Carrie mentioned before, the friends had a great time. So, and the basket of Lego libraries continue to sell.
Oh,
we have
yay.
that out, and so
Good.
we have bundles are still selling, and those are still selling as
Yeah.
well. So
Oh, awesome.
more support for the friends, who then in turn support us. So
Yep.
all in all, it's really good. I will bring up that there was one misunderstanding associated with the event, though, that staff members who had worked at the event had been under the assumption that they were going to be paid a time and a half for having worked the event. According to the staff in previous years, they had been paid time and a half for working the event. And when looking at their time cards this year, they were seeing that it was not in as time and a half. It's that time and a half is done automatically by our payroll software, and was not giving that. So I worked with the town to try to determine what the rules were for that. And according to the town bylaws, if somebody works over 8 hours or works over 40 hours over 8 hours in a day or over 40 hours in a week, that's when they would qualify for a different pay rate. But until they reach that, they are paid at their straight rate. So it was an unpleasant surprise for some people who were anticipating that by agreeing to accept one of these shifts, that they were not going to get the pay rate that they had anticipated, which again, according to them, was how it worked in the past.
So I wonder how they got time and a half in the past. Like, was it a different payroll software? Like, just seems.
Well, he said, right? He said it was if you work over a certain number of hours.
But in the past, they thought that they received the time and a half.
And that's unclear. I'm not sure about that. I just know that it's not doing it now.
Did you get any guidance from the town administrator on if the trustees could
I did.
cover that
I did.
compensation?
So something that was raised was, since for this year, since the staff had been under the assumption that they were going to get this additional pay rate, since the town can't do it as payroll, right? Because that's not part of the policy. Is there another way that we could get that for the staff members who were gracious enough to come and work on a Sunday and did such a fantastic job? Is there would it be, for instance, would the trustees be willing to make up the difference for the time that they worked?
But if we said okay, is the town okay? Because it would have to be paid via payroll. Like
Can't be done via payroll, right? So that's it. So payroll cannot do it. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd have to check, but I don't.
I don't.
I think it'd have to be through state aid. We'd have to pay through
So-
state aid.
So,
Which
so generally we paid for temps out of state aid,
correct.
but we need to be very careful, right? Because now you're giving somebody a monetary bonus based on like going above and beyond their job duties, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not putting the squash on this idea. I think it's a great idea, but I don't know that we're able to use state aid because we've looked at that in the past in terms of trying to reward people with gift cards, things like that. And is this kind of the same thing? You cannot give them gift cards, from state aid money. I don't know if this kind of is the same thing.
And I'll add that there's a new dynamic due to the union agreement and then aside from the bylaws that you said, the state, the town bylaws that, no matter what you call it, and I think to Aaron's point is that you're actually giving something of value in lieu of pay. you know, and I don't know if that's a slippery slope.
I don't know either. I mean, I don't see it as a bonus, right? Because they worked a Sunday. So whether you call it time and a half or you just call it you know, a payment that we're, you know, compensation that we're paying for this special event that happens to be off hours.
Well, do you remember?
But I still agree
Yeah.
that we'd have to look into it.
Yeah, you remember the flood, and
Yeah.
how the people went above and beyond to do, work to kind of save a lot of the collection and, and had some damages
Right.
to their own personal property in the process, right? That was very hard to want
Yeah.
to reward those people with, the funds we had at our disposal. So, I think it's a nice idea, and we need to figure out how we can do that. I just don't know if state aid is always going to be the magic
Yep.
kitty for that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the fund that we can pay for temps and bibliotemps and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So
Would-
what happened? Are you saying that last year's payroll system went awry?
Well, I guess that's my
That's what
question.
like. How did they get paid last
Yeah,
year?
so I guess we can look, I guess the town can look back and actually see, did people get paid? Because, it's not that we did this event 5 years ago. Like, we did it we did do it 5 years ago, but we did it last year. So if we could check and see, like, and maybe what happened last year is some people were over the 40 hours and then they got time and a half, but.
Yeah.
it seems like in many ways they'd have to be over 8 hours or 40 hours in a week in order to
If they
be
picked up an
eligible. But I'm
extra
not
shift, if
sure
they were the
if
full
that
time,
was true for every staff. It seems unlikely that every staff was in that situation.
And
Right.
then
But-
did we just have a lot more staff this year than last year? I think that probably is the case. There's a lot more staff that worked, so maybe last year the people that worked were over the 40 hours and that's why they got the time and a half.
Yeah, I think we can look into it, but in the end, it's not going to be covered through payroll given the current situation. So
Agreed.
maybe I can reach out to MBLC regarding the state aid and just kind of describe the situation that we want to compensate staff based on extracurricular work that we sanctioned or whatever and see what they say. Does that
That's a good
sound
idea.
like a good approach?
Yeah,
That's good
Yeah.
for staff, I think, yeah.
So, Tom, unfortunately, we don't have an answer today, but
Okay.
except that we're looking into it.
That's a good answer. That's a fine answer. I will say, it's probably something that should be figured out though, because
Yeah.
if we're talking about for community room events, that you're going to be having people expected to stay from 8 to 10 to cover that time, and you're willing to pay them for that, it's a similar situation. Because again, we're asking somebody to go above and beyond
Yeah, that's why
the
I think
normal,
Roger
the normal
commented.
hours and the normal
I think that would be
expectations.
not a staff responsibility. It would be a person's responsibility that would get trained separately. And if it happened to be a staff member, it would be outside their normal roles and responsibilities. But it's still
So it
something that
wouldn't
we're
be
going
a
to have to
staff
figure out.
member acting as a staff member, it would just be coincidentally a staff member.
No, I think they would still be a staff member, and if they worked, you said that if they worked longer than 8 hours, then they would get time and a half, or in a single day, then they would get time and a half.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Right.
want anybody working more than 8 hours though.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not gonna have somebody working 10 hours.
I think it's something we can ask the town
So-
administrator's office. And then when I talk to MBLC, I can bring up that scenario too.
Okay.
it could also be a voluntary thing, right? Where it's
That-
like, we're not forcing this on the staff and having to ratify the union agreement or whatever, but more so of like, would you like to come in? There's this group that wants to come in on Sunday. Would anyone want to not volunteer their time, but like, does anyone want to volunteer for being available and getting paid for it? So it's not a
Yeah,
requirement.
we need to figure this out because we're gonna have a very hard time finding staff who want to volunteer their time to work, even like Grafton celebrates the holiday now.
Right.
If the expectation in the past was time and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with extra hour community events, likely we're going to be charging the group extra money in order to fund them. So I don't think that will be as much of a question about where it's getting paid from, but it's still extra pay. Right.
And then the other question is, does the union agreement need to be amended for that instance? You know, just to, I mean, even though you're enhancing someone's pay, I mean, and someone is willing to do it, that's something that I would certainly want at least union input on their opinion about how this works in harmony with the contract.
Yep.
So,
Okay, I think, at this point, we're probably just speculating and speculating, so why don't we get some additional information and, I can distribute that in advance of the next meeting, and we'll talk about the next meeting.
That would be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for the discussion. Anything else on the director's report?
Just that the front door locking system is operational now. So the final piece for that, beyond the last meeting, was that we needed DPW to come and install the mullion in the front door. They came and did the repair on the mullion because the reason it wasn't going back in was that it had been damaged. They were able to repair that, which was fantastic.
That is
and it's in
fantastic.
place.
That's huge.
And we are never taking it out again until we need to move the piano for some reason. We're set. So front door locking system is up and working. Staff are able to come in through the staff entrance with their scan cards, and the doors lock perfectly. So
Wow.
everything's great and in place. One thing, by the way, we do have the invoice from that, and we just need to know where the payment for that would be coming from. Again, this is part of the project, of the overall project of the building, so could it come from Leeds as well?
Yeah, I think so.
I would think so too.
Okay. Yep. Great, thank you.
and I had a question that actually was either, well, kind of related to director's report, and I overlooked bringing it up on the new business. It's my understanding that for town department heads, that the FY26 budget and capital budgets are due, what, the 20th?
This Friday.
All right, so I know it's not on the agenda to discuss in detail, but everything's on track?
Yeah, I've been working with the town, and
You're talking about January 20th?
December 20th,
No,
December
December
20th.
20th.
this Friday.
Friday.
I need to submit the operational budget request.
Okay.
And we're on track for that.
And I would reiterate, if you want, I know it's only 2 days, but if you want a trustee to kind of read through it again with you or check it, let us know.
Okay.
Certainly coming into the new year, when you're reviewing it and negotiating and
I-
stuff like that, we
This
we
is
would
the
be involved.
initial submit, but not necessarily the final.
Yep, okay.
So I guess that FY26 would be something that would be on next month's agenda then?
I think so. Yeah, if you could include it in the packet, whatever that current one was, and then we can have an agenda item just to answer any questions on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger, for bringing that up.
All right.
If I could just add one more thing, which didn't get into the director's report that I sent around to you, but I just wanted to let you know that I'd been contacted previously. It was like in June when it was like my second week here or something, that a charitable organization, a family which donates to different groups and institutions, had contacted me saying that a member of their family was a big fan of our children's room and uses it, and so they had wanted to make a donation to the library.
Wow.
And I said, well, gee, that sounds nice, thanks. And they said, we'll get back to you, and then we didn't hear from them. I contacted them, and they said, yes, you're still in the running, so we'll let you know. And then they said, yeah, you should be getting something in August. August came and went, nothing showed up, but then we just recently got a check in the mail from them, and it was considerably more than I was expecting, because I was thinking it was going to be, I don't know, like $500 or something, and it was $19,750.
Wow, that's awesome.
Was that the amount? Something like that. Okay, it was right around there. Which is really wonderful, and the stipulations were this was to be used for things that we use the money for anyway, like programming and materials. And as nice as it was to receive that money, I'm even more pleased with the what it represents.
Yeah.
And that that people feel so strongly about what we're offering to the community that they think that this, I mean, they could have given that money to a lot of different places, but for them to say that your children's room is such a important institution that we want to make sure that it's
Wow, that's
that it's
just
got the money to
wonderful.
continue. So it was a nice, kind of a nice surprise.
That's great. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Do we know how to receive that money?
It was so it was given to the town, and then it was put into a separate grant fund for us to use for paying for certain invoices that come in.
And is that something that would be used this fiscal year, or is there any like?
There's
time
no
limit?
restriction on it,
Yeah.
so
Right.
yeah. The only restriction again was that it was for certain types of resources.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you sent a thank you letter. Will be
working
sending
on
it.
that. Yes,
That's
yes,
great.
yes.
No, thank
We
you.
don't really have a thank you letter for something like that.
Yeah.
We sort of have a thanks. I think this gets a special letter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay.
How nice getting just like
It was
money
nice.
in
I think
the
we
mail.
should end it on that note because that
Yeah.
was some great news.
That's great.
Public input? No public input. So next meeting, we have the policy subcommittee meeting, January 8th at 6:30. The Friends meeting was January 14th, which is a Tuesday at 7:30. And then our next meeting is sometime in January, January
22nd.
22nd,
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, is that on the second?
It's on the
That's
next page,
back
yeah.
January 22nd at 7 PM.
So Doug, I know the 2025 meeting dates were included in our meeting packet.
Yep.
We've already voted on those, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really just an FYI.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay,
So that list represents 0 changes, it's just a reminder?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't, I just typed it up.
Yeah.
I didn't-
Yep. Well, certainly if the trustees review that and see any issues, let's make sure that it gets back to Kim and then compared to the one that we actually approved, if there's any differences, but I don't expect there to be any.
Okay. Great. I'll make,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I declare this motion, this meeting adjourned at 8:48.